When it comes to Richard of Shrewsbury, one of the things that not enough people know is that he was married. Her name was Anne Mowbray, and this is her story. Anne was born on the 10th of December 1472 at Framlingham Castle. Her mother was Elizabeth Talbot and her father was John Mowbray, the 4th Duke of Norfolk. If you've studied the royal family prior to the 15th century, you are definitely familiar with the Mowbrays. Her family were historically infamous for being favourites of kings and for rebelling against other kings. Her father died in 1476 and she was his only surviving child, and thus she became a very wealthy heiress. If you've seen previous episodes, you may be able to guess where this is going, because she gained the attention of a very particular person. And that was the king himself, Edward IV. The king already had marriage plans for his eldest son, Edward, but he didn't have any marriage plans for his second-born, Richard of Shrewsbury. On the 15th of January 1478, Richard of Shrewsbury married Anne Mowbray. Richard was just 4 years old and Anne barely older at just 5 years old. She did not live with her husband, but she did live in his mother Elizabeth's lands. For anyone who is concerned about the matter of bedding ceremonies, at this point they fully followed the rules of the church, and that was that 12 was the appropriate age for girls. 12 is too young, but she is 5 here, so that definitely did not happen if you were concerned. The next couple years of Anne's life are unrecorded. She would have been receiving an education. She may have attended some royal events, but otherwise we don't know anything of her life. The next thing we know of Anne's life is 3 years later, in 1481. On around the 19th of November, Anne, just 8 years old, passed away. And this is the start of us becoming very suspicious of Edward IV. It's quite typical for kings to marry their sons to wealthy heiresses. It isn't so common that that heiress dies a couple of years later. It is not known precisely why Anne died, but her remains were disturbed and testing was done on her hair, which showed traces of arsenic. While there are a number of theories as to why there were traces of arsenic in her hair, one of them is poisoning, whether it be accidental or on purpose. That is to say, some theorise that the little heiress was assassinated. So of course, Edward is our main suspect. When her remains were studied, they did a facial reconstruction. So if you wanted to see this little girl, this is her. This here is the tragic 8-year-old Anne Mowbray. She didn't get to live long enough to